of Israel and the conflict that is now the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, about to address the General Assembly. Let's listen in.
Ladies and gentlemen, order. Order, please.
What we're seeing, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people walking out of the General Assembly, and the moment in which Benjamin Netanyahu walked in to address to give his address, perhaps a sign, a bit of taking of the temperature as to how that session of the world body feels about his presence right now.
Yeah. We are back. And we are black. Yes, pitch black in, boy. It is the midnight hour here. Issues and Answers Friday, straight out of the cannon with me, Scott Cannon, here in the dark. Yes, what you just heard was a news report talking about Benjamin Netanyahu speaking at the United Nations, and everybody walked out. Everybody walked out. Now, why'd they do that? Well, it looks like Israel at this point is a rogue state that may be past the point of no return. They just killed Hezbollah chief on Saturday. Hassan Nasrallah was killed in a deadly strike in Beirut. And, you know, that was a major loss. He was the leader since 1992 of Hezbollah. Here we go, loop-de-loop. Here we go, Hezbollah. No joke, but he was the leader of the group for over 30 years. Over 30 years. He was a founding member of Hezbollah that formed in 1982 and helped them form the militant group into sort of the force that it is in the Middle East and Middle Eastern politics today. They had an elite special forces unit called the Radwan Force. Like, Hezbollah is a very formidable fighting force, even though they are technically not the state army of Lebanon. So Israel has gone ham and have invaded Lebanon now. They already have committed mass genocide in Gaza that possibly has killed a few 100,000 people. We won't fully know until, journalists and other aid agencies are able to fully assess the damage that has been done in Gaza by Israel, by the IDF. And so now they are in Lebanon fighting with Hezbollah. They've actually lost. They're actually getting some get back, some blowback coming towards them. Hezbollah has killed 8 of the IDF forces troops in southern Lebanon, and they are really picking at Iran now. And Joe Biden, I don't even know if Joe Biden is actually the president right now of the United States. You guys do know that Joe Biden could have ended this months ago. He could have ended this months and months ago, just like Ronald Reagan did in 1982. Ronald Reagan called up Menachem Begin on the phone when they invaded and were bombing the hell out of Lebanon in 1982, and compared them to the Nazis and said, you guys are going to cut this out right now. And guess what happened? They stopped. They had no choice. They had no choice. But Joe Biden is completely, as the right-wingers would say, cucked by Benjamin Netanyahu. Biden is saying he's not going to support any Israeli strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. This all happened following a call with the G7 leaders, where he said that the ally group stands behind Israel, but believes Israel's response to Iran's unprecedented missile attacks should be proportionate. Now, in retaliation for all the stuff that Iran has been doing in Lebanon, Israel has been doing in Lebanon and all that, Iran has launched attacks against Israel that actually destroyed like some military outposts and stuff, and is basically testing that Iron Dome that Israel has there. And so Biden is saying, look, we'll let them strike back, but in a way that is proportionate. Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't care for any of that. He's saying, I'm pledging revenge against Iran. So this is after weeks of escalating fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, which is a proxy for Iran. Iran launched 200 missiles into Israel. And that's what we were just talking about. In recent weeks, Israel's military has aggressively and successfully gone after Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, and even launched that ground invasion we were talking about. They actually, a few weeks ago, committed an act of terror that even the United States would never engage in. They somehow compromised the pagers in Lebanon of suspected, not even confirmed, but suspected Hezbollah members, and blew up the pagers. Somehow they were able to detonate all these pagers. Now, they had no way of knowing whether or not the pagers themselves were with Hezbollah members or whether it was with their family members. There was one child who got blown up. I think their face got blown up by the pager explosion. This is something that the United States of America would never do. And we do some really bad stuff. We do, like, again, Martin Luther King called us the greatest purveyor of violence in the world for a reason. But even the United States military would not do something like this, engage in a just out and out act of terror. And so now Iran is saying it's fair game. You guys are fair game. And let's just be real here, folks. Israel knows that they are a small country. There's only 9 million people in Israel. Iran has 90 million people, 10 times as many people. And they have an endless amount of weapons. So who do you think that Iran is going to get to fight? Israel is going to get to fight Iran for them. Who is Israel going to get to fight Iran for them? Their plan is to get us to fight Iran for them. And so all this is going on. Israel keeps supposedly defying Joe Biden, who could easily put an end to this anytime he wants. But they keep defying him, and they keep pushing this forward because they think that they can essentially force us into this conflict. The Biden administration has been unwilling to exercise any leverage, diplomatic and security, to fundamentally shut down what Israel is doing, even though this could lead to World War III. And I'm not exaggerating here, folks. The battle lines are being drawn. Iran has 90 million people and nuclear weapons. Russia is the preeminent nuclear power on the planet. They have more nukes than we do. China has 2 billion people and is the world's second biggest economy. We are simultaneously charging towards World War III with all of those different entities. And we are pushing them together. For many years, the goal was, going back to Richard Nixon going to China in the 1970s, keep Russia and China away from each other. Keep Russia and China away from each other. And for generations, it worked. We had diplomacy with China. We destroyed we didn't destroy, but the Soviet Union collapsed. Francis Fukuyama wrote, "The end of history." It's the end of history. This is the last major war that will ever need to be fought because capitalism triumphed over communism. Well, not quite. Not quite. China has indeed invited some capitalism within the system, but they are still a communist one-party state. And Russia is nowhere near the wounded, limping dog. Though Russia is capitalist now, don't make any bones about it. Russia is not a communist country anymore, contrary to what a lot of the propagandists in this country would have you believe. But still, they are a formidable country now, with more nuclear weapons than any country in the world, including the United States. And now China and Russia, that had their own differences for years, are now looking at each other. And they're looking at Iran. And they're saying, hey, maybe we can take them. Which could lead to disastrous results for us in this country. Even if we were to win World War III, this could result in the deaths of tens of millions of people, maybe hundreds of millions of people. This could lead to whole regions of the planet being rendered uninhabitable through nuclear weapons for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Now, Biden wants to, and as gently as possible, call for a truce, a 3-week truce that was backed by a few countries, including our European allies, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, to temporarily cease this war. But Netanyahu rejected it. Netanyahu wants this war, and he wants to drag us into it. And so now what we see is Israel is just lashing out at the whole world now. They are a rogue state. They don't listen to us. Well, it's claimed they don't listen to us. Because we all know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris could do a hell of a lot more. A hell of a lot more to bring this to an end. And I just heard somebody say very recently, I ain't gonna say who, that basically the vice president can't go against the president. That's not true. That's not true at all. We know that because our current president, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., was the vice president. And when he was vice president, he went against Barack Obama and endorsed same-sex marriage, causing a little bit of a rift between him and Obama. The vice president, especially with a lame duck president like Joe Biden, who isn't even running for re-election, Kamala Harris, if Kamala Harris had any means, any intentions to bring this to an end, she could easily come out and distance herself from the Biden administration right now and say, look, this has to stop. And when I become president, I'm cutting Israel off. But she's not going to do that. She's not going to do that. You know why? Because her husband is a Zionist. And she herself gets millions of dollars from AIPAC. And because of this, so many, maybe hundreds of thousands of Middle Eastern Arabic voters in this country have decided to vote against Kamala Harris and Donald Trump and are supporting Jill Stein, like I am. So if Kamala Harris loses this election to Donald Trump in about a month, she might be able to look at her cowardice in this particular topic, refusing to stand up for what is right and pressure not her boss, but the person she's serving with in Joe Biden. He's probably her boss at this point. I mean, she's probably his boss at this point. She has more power within the party than a lame duck like Joe Biden does. If she loses, this is totally on her head. Totally. If all those young people who came out to protest and all those Middle Eastern people in Michigan refused to vote for her, she is done. She is done. You know, because again, Israel has become a rogue state that is lashing out. They've barred the UN Secretary General from entering the country. The UN Secretary General. Their foreign minister announced on Wednesday that UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has been declared persona non grata and barred from entering Israel for constantly reminding the world that they are committing a genocide and that everything they are doing is in violation of virtually every code of conduct that a country can have. And so this decision has widened the rift between Israel and the United Nations amid rising tensions in that region. And they are really mad at him because he keeps going to social media to call for a ceasefire. He said, I am deeply alarmed about the very real danger of a devastating region-wide escalation. Neither the region nor the world can afford another war. They have essentially barred the man from the country for trying to make peace. And he said, I urge all parties to exercise maximum restraint to avoid any action that could lead to major military confrontations on multiple fronts in the Middle East. Antonio Guterres sees the writing on the walls. He sees this. In March, they blocked UNRWA Chief Felipe Lazzarini from entering Gaza, citing security concerns, and they accused the UN of bias in its treatment of Israel and Palestinian militants. So again, the whole world sees what Israel is doing and what they are becoming and are condemning it. At the beginning of the segment, I played all the people at the UN walking out on Benjamin Netanyahu. It was most of the countries of the world walking out on Israel because they see what they're doing. But at the same time all this was happening, Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz, took to social media to thank Kamala Harris for her support of Israel at this time. You get what you vote for, folks. You get what you vote for.